Before we dive in, I'm thrilled to report that my new book is now available for pre-order. It's called Human in the Room, and it's about the moments where we can build trust, enhance our sense of presence, and use good judgment to stand out amidst the noise so often governed by AI and algorithms. It's a framework that's practical that will help you move past just positioning and posturing to show up as truly human and differentiated in the workplace. The link to pre-order is in the show notes, and I can't wait to go on this journey with you and explore these themes more. Welcome to the Be Student Podcast, and thank you for joining me. On today's episode, we're doing something a little differently. I'm going to be interviewing our Chief Marketing Officer, Jason Lederman, who's got an office right next door to mine and is behind the scenes on this show and actually contributing to the success and growth of it. We're going to turn the tables and interview him on what makes a successful podcast, where the world of podcasting is going, and how you can think about using podcasting to help grow your brand and business. So welcome to the Be Student Podcast, Jason.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so fun to be on this side of the camera.
I know. He's usually behind the camera bossing me around and telling me I have very few minutes left in this show, or to fix my hair or do something else or lead with this question. It's so great to have you on this side of the camera.
Thank you so much.
So, I hired you recently.
Mm-hmm.
But
this is week 7.
Yeah, this is week 7. We threw you into the deep end of the pool. But one of the reasons why I did hire you was because of your podcasting background. Talk to us a little bit about the journey to be in this seat and what you've done leading up to the Winter Park Chamber of Commerce that kind of positions you to be the right person, which
Sure.
I believe you are for where we are.
Thank you. I truly, growing up, wanted to be on the radio, so audio and now video as a storytelling method is very important to me personally. My podcasting background probably starts when I was at VH1. I was in their radio department, which is no longer around, but I co-produced a podcast series there. And then
what was the focus of that series?
It was classic rock heroes. So telling their stories through their music and weaving music into the narrative.
Okay.
I did that with a guy named Roger Coletti, who's still in the business and making incredible music podcasts and storytelling. Then I went to Popular Science magazine. I was their first ever social media editor. And I said to them at that time, which was I think a little progressive of a 23-year-old, 24-year-old to say, videos and podcasts have to be part of an all-encompassing digital strategy to reach the people who you want to reach on the platforms where they're at. It's not just Facebook or just Twitter, as it was called at the time, or just Instagram. It's a holistic view of it. And that's where my digital marketing journey begins. And then I ended up at a startup in Austin called Icon that does 3D printed housing. I did their digital marketing. And then most recently, I was at the X Prize Foundation, which is an international nonprofit that designs and operates competitions to push forward scientific and technological innovation, running the digital marketing there before I landed here.
So exactly like the work that the Winter Park Chamber of Commerce does.
You honestly would be surprised. It's a lot of overlap of looking at small to large businesses that are starting up and providing them with the resources, tools, and connections that they need in order to succeed.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear the similarities.
Yeah.
I just loved your pedigree, and I loved that you did have a background working for a pretty high-functioning nonprofit, and nonprofits are interesting beasts. You kind of have to understand them. You don't have to have worked for one before, but have to understand them, and I found that really interesting. I'll tell you what else I liked is that you went to Northwestern.
I did. Go Cats.
Yeah, and that is one of the best places to go learn about film, television, radio, journalism, broadcasting, all that kind of stuff. Talk to us about how you went to sort of the Harvard of TV and film, and how that shaped. I'm sure some of that changed while you were in that degree.
Oh, absolutely.
About what that expectation would be and what it would look like. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, I was in the radio, TV, and film program, and but always interested in all kinds of different storytelling. So I also took classes at through the Medill School of Journalism for non-majors. My little brother ended up going to Medill as well, so I spent a lot of time there with him. It was a very interesting time and place to be because it was really the rise of online video and seeing brands like BuzzFeed developing personalities, and the Rebecca Black's song Friday had just come out when I was in a class looking at how the internet can shape the way that we are perceiving media. So it was a wonderful time to be there. I loved my time at Northwestern. I had a lot of really interesting professors, and diving into things in a real time is something that I will forever be grateful for, and to learn how to think about that media landscape and it's not just this thing is trending, let's do it, but it's this thing
TikTok
is trending
dances, nonsense.
well before when TikTok was Musical.ly. But it's, why do those dances work? Why is this trend connecting with people and trying to, in this game, it's always also trying to forecast what's going to be the next thing.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a minute. But, it was interesting to me. We had Craig DeLonghi on this podcast last year. And let's just frame for anyone who's picking up and joining us here. First of all, welcome. We'd love to have you, and we're glad you're here. But last year, we launched a podcast by a very small 825 member Chamber of Commerce, a municipal Chamber of Commerce in Florida. And we got 1 million downloads on YouTube. And I'm the most surprised person that happened, and not because of our outstanding production team or a great staff, but because it was something I hosted. I thought, how are we going to get anything like that? So I'm delighted. And that's really because of you, our viewers, and our amazing team. But, we going forward are going to be making increasingly larger bets on podcasting. So in our 1 million view year, our number one performing episode by views was Craig DeLonghi's episode about men's clothes and his journey through men's fashion and owning 8 retail stores where men's fashions are sold. And I felt like that episode really hit a nerve for people who want to understand how to be a man, how to show up as a man, how to project that you're a confident man. And of course, Craig is just a compelling character and an interesting person, which I think was part of it. But the interesting thing about that is Craig and I have known each other over 30 years, and he owns a retail store in Winter Park. And when he came for his taping, he said, "Oh, Betsy, this is what you're doing now instead of running the chamber." And I said, no, this is the chamber. And we can tell his story to more people in a deeper format with a real sense of connection between him and potential customers, unlike anything the chamber has ever offered as part of its product offering. Talk a little bit about that transformational power and how it's your job now to water and feed that. And what do we do with that, right? Because we want people who are listening to this to be plugging in and thinking about the power of podcasting. And even if you're never going to host one, which you don't have to, or produce one, which you don't have to, we do want to talk about how you can interact with podcasts to elevate your own sense of presence and brand. I know that's a lot, but
no, it's okay. Yeah, it's a podcast is a beast, and there's a lot of components in thinking about. Just like any other business or show, there's branding, there's social, there's video, there's engaging with your audiences at the right time on the right platform and making sure those audiences are the right people to be connecting with. And I think the Craig episode is a great example of how, yes, this is a podcast created and produced by a Chamber of Commerce, but it's so much more than the businesses and the people who are here. It's the lessons that they have to share.
Yep.
And that's what really connected with Craig and our audience. I'll also say from a digital marketing background, there's some great SEO in talking about the different types of outfits that men should have. And these are the 5 essential components, 6 essential components, 10 essential
pieces
components.
Every man needs in his wardrobe.
That's, 10 is a nice round number. And these are things that people are always looking for. in terms of creating a podcast, why podcasts are successful, there is a podcast for every person. There is every topic under the sun, and the ability to put out your show to the world that anyone can do with not even a computer anymore. You could do it straight from your cell phone, democratizes that ability to tell stories and make connections. And so the podcasts that I listen to are different from the podcasts that you listen to, are different from the podcasts that our audience may be listening to. But each one is successful because it connects with you as a viewer.
So for you personally, what made you start paying attention to podcasting, and what shifted your thinking?
Yeah, it's
because
funny.
you talked about radio as the entree, and of course, radio was the coolest thing you could attach to. Right when I was growing up, I'm considerably older than you are, but so your original story was radio, and then somehow you shifted and started focusing on podcasting.
Yeah. And that happened while I was at VH1 working with Roger and the team there, in creating that rock podcast. I think for a long time I was very much of a mindset of like, podcasts aren't really a thing, and okay, they're a thing, but they're not that popular. And I saw the way that audiences connected with that, and I saw the way that you can tell, and not just any story, but the story that you want to tell and find that audience.
Right.
And so it was only in helping to create my first podcast that I really said, oh, this medium is so much more than I ever gave it credit for.
So let's talk about what you did. I think the largest podcast you contributed to had over 500,000 subscribers. Is that right?
It's got quite a lot. It's been going since 2016, I believe. It's called The Weirdest Thing I Learned This Week. It's still being produced by Popular Science. It's hosted by Rachel Feltman, a former coworker, colleague, and friend of mine. And it's a competition show where 3 hosts come in and they tease you a weird fact at the beginning of the show. And then in each segment, the host has the opportunity to tell you not just how this fact is true, but the science behind it. And everybody gets to bring a different perspective, and the hosts, of course, get to vote, but it also gives the audience a chance to vote as well on their favorite weirdest thing of the week.
I love it. So for me, I'm not the biggest consumer of podcasts. And when my team first came to me and said, we should have a podcast, I was like, no. I don't find podcasts that interesting. This is a long time ago. Now I'm the biggest believer in podcasts ever, but I don't find them that interesting. Who's going to sit and listen to people yammer on for 35 minutes or more? And there were so many like just casual, breezy podcasts about nothing that kind of turned me off to it. And I think people are smarter about it now. I think video forward has made them more interesting to watch and participate in than just an audio format. But what for you makes you stick with an episode of a podcast that you like? What are the things that make it compelling for you to stay with it and listen to it all the way through?
Yeah, it's a combination of things, and the most important two are the topic and the host.
Okay.
Right. So I'm going to search out a podcast for something that I am passionate about, whether that's sports or
weird things,
true crime. In my case, Star Trek. There's a Star Trek podcast that I love, and there's plenty of nerds out there making Star Trek podcasts. But the one that I settled on is because I also like the hosts.
Okay.
And it's about how you, again, connect with that audience and how they connect with you.
Okay, so asking for a friend, what else makes a good host?
It's truly about your personality.
Okay.
And I will tell you, you have a great personality. And we've known each other for about 2 months, and I feel like we connected right away.
We did.
It's the reason I agreed to be a guest on this show, is because you are the host of it.
Okay.
And ultimately, I was also in a past life a trivia host in New York City, and not to toot my own horn, I was pretty good at it. It's truly about the way that you interact with people. I will go to a trivia night every night of the week and be very happy to do so. That's another thing that I really enjoy doing. But I will take a good host with bad questions over a bad host with good questions every time.
A good host with bad questions. Hopefully I'm doing both. But
you are a good host with good questions.
All right, I hope so. So let's talk about the early days of podcasting when it was sort of people in a basement with 2 microphones. Maybe it was sexier than that. I don't know. But I wasn't really into it back then. But what are the rules that have changed about podcasting now? Is it still just about consistency, or tell us what matters most? Frequency, quality, discoverability, or is it something else entirely?
Yeah, I think some of that depends on your format. This is a chat show. There are other shows. The first really big podcast to explode was Serial.
Yeah.
I think that's really the one that put podcasting on the map. That's not this.
Right.
And so it's, of course.
We're not talking about true crime or murder or any of that here.
We're not. And so your frequency depends on your format. But in terms of the rules, I think high quality trumps all. You want to have a good looking set, especially now that video is such a component. Right. YouTube is a video platform, but also a podcast platform, in a way where you can, even on your channel, label videos as podcasts. And there's podcast tabs on the back end and podcast searching, in addition to your Spotify's, your Apple Podcasts, all of the podcatchers, as they're called. We are very fortunate to have a high quality production partner in Hi Hello Labs, where we are now. Shout out Hi Hello Labs. Yep. And if you want to create a podcast, there are ways to go about it, certainly in your basement. But along with that, there's also improvements in the technology. So now the microphones come with noise cancellation, and people are, it's also a matter of training audiences, right? Audiences are used to seeing celebrities out there talking into microphones with their headphones on, and where once this was thought to be kind of a nerdy thing. Yeah. It's really,
I hope to never be seen in headphones. I don't think it's a good look for me.
I think you look good no matter what. But even the Emmys have a podcast category now, right? Where Amy Poehler just won the first ever Emmy for podcasting.
Shout out to my girl Amy Poehler.
Yeah, our very close personal friend Amy Poehler.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So what do you think is one thing that some people underinvest in their podcasts that actually really make a difference?
Your microphone.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. All right.
It's your audio quality. And this is something that I believe is not just in podcasting, but also in film and television. When I was at VH1, I got to go to a panel where Stephen Colbert interviewed George Lucas.
What?
And George Lucas said, if your audio doesn't match your video, you're going to lose your audience immediately. And I don't know if you've ever been watching a movie or a TV show where suddenly there's a little bit of lag, and it's incredibly distracting.
Yes, it is. It pulls you right out of that envelope, doesn't it?
And so I think that your sound setup is key to your success, and especially as you watch on YouTube and on TikTok and Instagram, you'll see every person has a little lavalier microphone on their lapel or on their shirt. They're holding it, and this even goes back to, I would say 5 or 6 years ago on TikTok as well. You would see people holding up their headphones that are plugged into their phone to make sure that their audio quality is good, because it makes such a difference in your production value that even if you're holding a phone, you have a handheld camera, your audio still has to be crisp.
Okay, so you heard it here first. If you have a great partner like Hi Hello Labs, you don't even need to really ever worry about this. And proof of concept is I've been doing this over a year and I've never thought about the microphone or the quality of that because they take care of everything.
They take care of everything.
Okay, I love it. So invest in your microphone.
Absolutely.
All right, so the audio quality matters. So I think you have one of those NPR voices, kind of an ASMR voice. Were you always told you had a radio voice? Is that what made you want to go into radio?
No. Actually, it's funny because, as you know, I'm originally from New York, and my beautiful, talented, smart, lovely wife asked me where my New York accent was, and I had to tell her it was something that I had trained out of myself when I wanted to go into radio.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to hear all that New York stuff on radio.
All the New York.
I love it.
My coffee and my dog.
It depends now, because this medium's so authentic, they don't make people train out of anything anymore.
That's true. And also, I would say there's an audience for it, right?
Yeah.
If I'm listening to a podcast about the Yankees, I want to hear someone with a Bronx accent talk about the Yankees.
Not a Boston accent, obviously.
No. We're not Sox fans in my household.
Okay, well, I was born in Boston, so we'll agree to disagree. Okay, so podcasting does feel like this inflection point, right? We know what happened with Joe Rogan's podcast influencing the election. We saw Kamala Harris on Call Me Daddy. I mean, these are big moments. And I'm even watching what happened with Stephen Colbert putting up an episode of his show on YouTube the other week, and I think they got 5 million views in like 2 days on that. So we are betting big on YouTube and the way we contribute content and produce content. Tell me what you think is happening with the medium of podcasting. Where do you think it's headed?
Oh goodness! If I knew that, I'd be right
up there. You'd be
there.
CMO of the Winter Park Chamber of Commerce
exactly right.
if you knew that.
I would tell you that I think podcasting is not going anywhere. It's only going to continue growing. Interview formats like this are not going away, even if a late night format might disappear. Right on CBS, they're getting out of the game entirely.
Right,
but the ways that we can connect with audiences, and I know I keep repeating this, but it is the core tenet of this medium is how we connect with our audience is what drives success.
Okay.
And so in telling a story in whatever way that is, it could be a single host, it could be two people, it can be in front of an audience. NPR, Wait, Don't Tell Me is a radio show, but it's also a very successful podcast. And it's because people want to come back. It's developing that repeatable format, whatever that format is. Mm-hmm. If you have an idea for what you want to do, and you say, I'm not seeing anybody in the space doing it, experiment, put it out there, see how people respond, and then adjust accordingly. Right? That's the name of the game when it comes to digital content. Everything moves quickly, so find the audience who wants to connect with you and be receptive to their feedback.
So I'm surprised and delighted by the number of people that listen to this on Spotify and Apple. Mm-hmm. We've really focused on YouTube, but we're so happy that people listen on the audio version as well. I do think that YouTube is having a moment, and sure. I think YouTube is having a long moment. I think it's going to be having a moment for a while. Do you think, though, that the podcasting market is oversaturated, or do you think there's still room for new voices?
There always has to be room for new voices in any format. Because, at the Winter Park Chamber, we emphasize a message of belonging, and the same is true for media. The more voices there are, the better opportunity there is to explore and to find those things that nobody else is doing before, that you have this unique perspective. That's not to say it's not also oversaturated. I think those things can be true at the same time. Right. There are many, many podcasts about true crime, as an example. We listen to a lot of those in my house too, and we love them. But there's always a new one popping up. But that's not a bad thing. It's about finding your niche.
So going back to the audio video tension, mm-hmm. For someone who's got an audio only podcast,
sure.
Would you make a case for or against moving to video platform for them? And if so, why?
It's a lot more work. When I do an audio only podcast, I can roll in my jammies and talk to my microphone. When I'm on video, I'm worried about my appearance. I'm worried about continuity.
Yeah.
It really depends if you are ready to put in the time and effort. I think ultimately, yes, if you want to connect with more people and reach people on the platforms that they're at, and that's the name of this game, and that's TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube right now. For an older audience of Facebook, but it's
Heard and noted.
It was not directed at you.
Heard and noted. I got it.
I think ultimately, yes, if you're going to be successful as a show, you have to develop a video component. But there are plenty of podcasts that don't and are very successful on their own and go on tours. One of my favorite is Criminal, which is also a true crime podcast, but a narrative
I'm noting a
version.
theme here. I'm noting a theme. Okay.
I have, listen, I have a signed Criminal poster in my house, and they went on a tour. They went on a nationwide tour. They've went on several nationwide tours.
I love it.
They have their own subscription, like fan program. And so there are lots of successful models that'll work for a an audio only podcast. But Criminal is not the show that you said. You said Call Her Daddy, and you said the Joe Rogan Experience. Yep. And those are video podcasts.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is we started getting data when we launched this show last year that the show was performing really well, and it was performing really well with young people.
Yeah.
And I just thought, why in the world, I've got young adult children who kind of roll their eyes whenever I impart a piece of wisdom. So I thought that was my experience of connecting to young people and thought, why would they want to listen to me? But I know a lot of really interesting people and senior business leaders, and that's who we have on the show. And I think it's interesting because when we ask rooms full of young professionals, what do you need most right now to accelerate your career? They say universally mentorship. And I think what we're providing on this show is a type of mentorship. It's a virtual mentorship at scale. And so I think that's one of the reasons why the show has done well is the quality of the guests that we have, and they share their wisdom generously, their failed experiments and their the things they learned the hard way, or just the role modeling of being risk tolerant and believing in yourself. And the other thing that's interesting is almost every guest talks about their mom, right? And what they learned from their mom, and moms have a lot of wisdom. So I kind of love that part. But I think that's maybe some of our secret sauce, that we're not just interviewing people. We're actually taking what you're good at, going deeper, understanding that human side of what catalyzes what you're good at, and then, exports it to people who are hungry for the cheat codes. When I think about this show and seeing kind of the cheat codes and hacks that our guests can help impart to people to really show up in this complex workplace environment, I think that might be the thing. What do you think is the thing?
I think you do an excellent job at pulling life lessons out of business leaders who, in their prior interactions with you, talk about their business. And you have great relationships with them, and you get to demonstrate that on this show. And I was at a meeting with about 24 different organizations yesterday. And as I was talking about some of the recent efforts we made, including our recent trip to Tallahassee to talk about why matching arts grant funding is so important from the state, and how
it's good business.
It's good business. Art is good business is the name of that trip. One of the leaders of our city stood up and said, the thing that I learned from this trip, and it was my first time going, is just how important relationships are, and how great Betsy's relationship is with these lawmakers in order to help them to understand why this is so important. And I think that's the secret sauce of this podcast, is the relationships help to draw out those life lessons, because it's not, I'm telling you this as a business leader. It's I'm telling you this from my personal experience, right? I've learned this the hard way. Here's some news for you. The number one piece of advice I give to podcast hosts is just to listen to your guest. And I think you do a great job of that, honestly.
Okay. Wait, what'd you just say?
The most successful podcast hosts are the ones who listen and ask follow-up questions.
Okay.
And that's, in my experience as a producer, as a host, as a journalist, the thing that is going to get you the best answers is when you say, wait, tell me more about that.
Yeah. Wait, tell me more.
Wait, tell me more.
Okay, so let's pretend you're going to launch any podcast you want as Jason Lederman.
Okay.
What would it be about?
The show that I would like to do, I love talking to people. So I think it would be an interview type format like this.
Okay.
And the show is called Can I Pet Your Dog?
Okay, so we're doing this show for almost over 30 minutes, and we haven't gotten your B-side, which now we're going to.
Okay.
Let's talk, because I really wanted our listeners to get the kind of the juice of how you make podcasting great. And the call to action there is, and before we go into your B-side, and we're going to do that really quickly because it's almost time to wrap up. But the call to action is, think about getting involved in podcasting, think about video first. And even if you don't want to host one or no one invites you to appear on one, what could you do to participate in the impact of podcasting?
And think about where your audience is and where you're going to reach them.
But what can they do? 2 easy things.
They can
comment and share.
Comment and share.
I
see where you're leading
Tell
me.
everybody why comment and share works.
This is one of the first things that you and I discussed.
Yes, let's talk about why comment and share works for you, even if you're not going to be a host or a guest. Why does it work?
I told Betsy the age of like and subscribe is over. That became almost a meme of, like and subscribe. And to really be successful as a digital entity now, you need to have engagement. So it's not just about liking and subscribing to the channel. It's commenting.
Although we want you to do that too.
We want you to do that too, of course. Yeah. But it's about commenting on the video, engaging with the host. It's a two-way street, and about sharing and telling your friends, this is a part of a community that I'm in and I enjoy it and I want you to be a part of that as well.
So putting a comment on this YouTube feed will let people know that you're part of that community, or you can comment on any of our socials as well and start your own conversation in reaction to this.
Yeah,
right?
And that's something that we see across different digital channels and social networks is there is a prioritization now for content that has comments and is shared as opposed to just liked.
Top tip, please leave us a comment on this episode. But I do think that for people who don't have a podcast or aren't playing in the podcast space, they hear me say, you should be playing in the podcast space. And that's like, we should fix our climate problems, right? It's enormous. And where do you start? Well, you start by commenting and sharing, right? So we've taught you a lot today about podcasting, the difference between video and audio, why you should be involved in this, but you don't have to do all the hard stuff. But if you do, we've got some tips. Get a good microphone, right? Get a good production team. And then, we want you to participate in the community that we've built here. Okay, so to wrap up, the podcast, of course, would be Can I Pet Your Dog?
Yeah.
Because next to your wife, the thing you care about most in this world is
animals.
And you're specifically?
My dogs and my cat.
And how many?
2 dogs, 1 cat.
Okay. And what do we learn through pet ownership?
We learn patience. We learn responsibility.
Well, I really do hope that you'll make Can I Pet Your Dog? Because I have to say, I've learned so much from you in the 7 weeks that we've worked together. I'm inspired by the way you approach work, problem solving. You're an amazing thinker and storyteller and communicator. And I look forward to continue learning from you and experiencing your passion for animals, storytelling, and so much else. I want to thank you for being on today and helping our listeners and our community get to know you and see how lucky we all are to have you doing the heavy lift of our storytelling on our behalf. So thank you.
Thanks, Betsy.
All right. So if you want to know more, find Jason on LinkedIn, Jason Lederman. And also you can get more information about him on the Winter Park Chamber of Commerce handles. Anything else you want to share about where people can learn more about you?
Oh, I'm not hard to find. I'm at Lederman basically everywhere.
At Lederman everywhere. LEDER. M-A-N.
That's it.
All right. So we'd love for you to comment, like, share, and subscribe to the Bee Student Podcast. We thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Before you go, one quick reminder, my new book, Human in the Room, is now available for pre-order. There's a link in the show notes. If what we talked about here today resonated with you, the book will take you on an even deeper dive. Thanks so much for being with us today. Appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time.